This conference will now be recorded.
Nice catch,
Great.
Linda.
Thank you, Linda, for picking that up. Thanks so much. Okay, so we have our first application is 2 Monroe Avenue for a fence, and it's for Newcomb Properties. We have Mr. Newcomb here to present. Good evening. So would you like to present to us what you're planning to do or what you're proposing to do?
We just want to put a little fence around some air conditioners and some garbage pails, just to keep them out of sight, and also to help if things blow out of the garbage pails. It's kind of like a little enclosure.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns for the applicant in regards to this kind of blockading fence? I know that there was some question about where the gate is to open and close it.
I think that shows on the sketch.
Well, I can't really see the gate, but is it to the side or is it in the front?
It's in the front. As you're looking east at the building, it's in the it's in the southwest corner of the fence. This gate, there's an arrow pointing to it.
Okay.
Mike, I have one minor question, and it's only a question regarding the installation of the fence. The cut sheet that you sent calls for the fence at 3 feet 6 inches high. Are you intending to have the top of the fence be at 4 feet and have 6 inches at the bottom that's open, or are you custom ordering a full 4-foot
No,
fence?
it'd just be 3 foot 6 inches of fence, and then we'd mount it 6 inches high off the ground.
Okay. Is there, because part of your intent is to prevent any trash that might be in the receptacles escaping and blowing around. Do you have a concern about that with an open space below or not?
No,
I mean,
not as much as.
The fence is better than none. And I think it's a good idea to have a fence around there. It's unsightly and, well, for what it is, it's not terribly unsightly, but it will be more aesthetically pleasing not to look at those things. And I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, and wood fences last longer when they're not down in the dirt.
Yes, exactly.
Mike, I'm just looking at the drawing. Is the fence top just going to be a solid straight line across? There's not going to be any dips or decorative?
Yeah,
Just
it's going to be straight across, and the posts are going to be behind it and not visible. I want it to just kind of disappear into the building. We'll paint it the building color, so.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
I'm in an ERB meeting. Can I talk to you tomorrow morning?
So,
Ken, is that you speaking? I can't hear you.
Neither can I.
so you know what? I think Ken might be speaking to somebody else. You know what? It might be a good idea if we are all muted and until we're speaking, then we unmute, and then when we're not speaking, we mute. Can we do that? So can everybody mute themselves, and then when you're ready to speak, then we could speak so there's no background noise. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go to Mark. Do you have any concerns about the fence or any questions for the applicant? Mark, you have to unmute to say no or yes, or you could shake your head.
No, I think it's a nice improvement, Mike, and thank you for doing that.
Okay.
It's going to look much better than what it does now.
Thanks. Jenny, any comments or questions for Mike? You have to unmute yourself, Jenny.
I've asked the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ken, is there anything you'd like to ask the applicant or clarify anything? Unmute yourself, please.
No, I'm good. I'm no questions.
Okay, thank you. And how about Bill McBride?
No, I like it. I think it's nice.
Okay. So I am going to make a motion at the meeting of the HPB on 12/14/20 The following motion was made. I make the motion to approve as submitted the application for a privacy fence or fence made by Mr. Newcomb at 2 Monroe Avenue. Do I have a second?
Bill McBride, I'll second.
Okay. Linda, do you want to go through our members?
Whoops, sure. Okay, Chairperson Cove,
Yes.
Member McBride,
Yes.
Member Searle,
Yes,
Member Morrow,
Yes.
and Member Harrington.
Yes.
Okay, approved.
Motion is approved. Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So our next applicant, I think I did see him pop on, Peter Coons at 44 Lincoln Avenue.
Yep.
Peter, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The house is looking quite amazing. You guys have been doing a lot of work over there. Looks great.
Yes. Like that movie with, what's the money pit movie with Shelley Long and Tom Hanks? I feel like that was mastermind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's what you get when you buy a 1925 house, and I don't think someone's done anything to it since that time. So.
But it is a labor of love, we have to say. We all have old houses here, and you just have to love them.
Yep.
Okay, so Peter, would you like to explain what you're planning on doing, please?
Sure. I think you all have the pictures that we submitted, and you'll see that we're looking to put 2 pillars at the front, and when we put in a new walkway. I don't know, that's pretty much it. There's not much more to it than that. The dimension, I think I gave you the dimensions as well. So it's gonna be a brick veneer, 30 inches high, 18 by 18, with a 2-foot concrete footer, and it's gonna be capped with bluestone on top. And then obviously we're gonna do the landscaping and finish that out.
So Peter, I have a question. So I walked by the property and I noticed that the sidewalk kind of is at an angle. So you're planning on having the pillars side by side, and it's going to be off the angle, correct? And then looks like you're going to do a planting in front to make it look a little bit more symmetric. Is that correct?
Yes,
You're not going to be moving with the sidewalk.
No.
Okay.
No.
And then the other question I have is, are you using the same brick that's on the stairs and the foundation of the home?
Yes, I mean, that's the intention, is make sure it all kind of blends together, is using the same colors and the same sort of brick type.
this is Jenny. Lisa, they're not going to be able to get the exact same brick. That's typically not possible, but I would, matching the color of the foundation brick, I think, is very important. The brick stairs are very hard to maintain with horizontal joints that face the sky because they take water. You'll have to keep track of that and be sure the mortar stays intact on those stairs, or they'll deteriorate pretty quickly. But
well, so that's existing stairs already. I'm not putting that.
I know.
Yeah, what's that have to do with this application, Jenny?
It has nothing to do specifically with this application, Bill, but it is a point of important information for a homeowner who's new to owning an historic property. And I am just pointing out an area of maintenance that they will not likely be familiar with. And it's something that they need to keep up in order to maintain that character defining feature on their historic home.
Okay, that's nice information. Yeah.
Lisa, you're muted.
Thanks. Mark, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think the rendering that I see here is absolutely fantastic. And thank you very much for giving us a great addition to the village. It's terrific.
Thanks, Mark. Jenny, anything you have to ask?
I like it too. I think it's a nice addition to the property.
Okay. Jenny, anything?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay. Ken Morrow?
I don't have any comments.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion then. At a meeting on the HPB on 12/14/2020, the following motion was made. I make a motion that the HPB approve with conditions the pillars made by Peter Coons, located at 44 Lincoln Ave. And just the conditions, I'm just going to specify that they closely match the color and the size of the brick as best they can.
Okay, great.
Okay.
think-
Oh, I'm
May
sorry.
May I make one more, just a comment regarding matching the color? You can call either Wexler Brick or Miller Brick, Josh Landscaping can, or you can, and a representative of one of those brick suppliers will be happy to bring samples to your house so that you can match the color.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Who's that, Mark?
yes, please.
Mark? Okay.
Linda, would you like to ask us all?
Okay, yep. Chairperson Cove, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member McBride?
Yes.
Member Searle?
Yes,
Member Morrow?
Yes.
And Member Harrington?
Yes,
Approved.
Great, motion is approved. So
Thank you.
there you go, Peter. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. All right. So do we have James Brooks or anybody from 22 Bounton Avenue that's here for our basement window application? James or anybody from 22 Bounton Avenue? No? Linda, no? Dorothea, no?
What's the name on that app?
James Brooks, 22 Bounton Avenue, basement windows.
I sent out a reminder today, an additional link for him.
Okay, well, we can wait. We'll just move him aside and we'll come back. Do we have Elizabeth Modsami or Sani from 9 Green Hill Lane
Yes. I
windows?
see her.
Yes, they're on.
Okay.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good. So give us a little synopsis of what you'd like to do and what's happened so far, please.
Yeah, so I spoke with you at the last meeting, and I know at the last meeting everyone had recommended that I speak to someone who restores windows. So the board did give me a name of somebody. I received the name of Jim. I don't have his last name off the top of my head. Someone there does. But Jim came to my house and he spoke to me about window replacements, and he did give me quotes also for a wooden double hung replacement window, similar to what I have right now that he can make. I thought his price seemed reasonable. I think he was charging $900 for his window. Pella, he also quoted me for a Pella window, which was a lot more expensive, more closer to $1,500 a window. So I guess at this point, I wanted to ask the board if I could either get a vinyl replacement and or a wooden replacement from Jim for the 3 kitchen windows that we discussed last time.
This is Bill McBride. Did he talk to you about rebuilding the existing windows?
He did a little bit, but he didn't think it was worth it from like a monetary perspective. The sashes, he didn't think it was really worth it from his perspective.
He didn't think it was worth it monetarily, or he didn't feel
Right.
as though. Okay.
Did he provide you with any sort of a letter or a paper document that could be included in the file for the application?
I just spoke with him today, this afternoon. So he didn't even have like the official numbers for me. He was just quoting off the top of his head. But we spoke around 4 o'clock today because I said I had a meeting tonight. I could probably get some sort of paperwork from him if you want the quotes or the numbers or.
I'm not interested in the numbers, but I think a brief letter, and by brief, I mean 2 or 3 sentences that said he visited your house, he looked at the windows, and they are not repairable, not rationally repairable. Just a paper document that goes in the file that indicates that you have sought the appropriate professional advice regarding your windows, and that he feels that replacement is an appropriate alternative.
Okay.
So Elizabeth, let me ask you this. So my understanding is that you're willing to have this gentleman, Jim, do an exact replica of the window that's there in wood.
Right. As long as I still want it to be energy efficient. I didn't get details on the style of window other than he said it would be similar to what I have now. It would be approved by the board. It would be a wooden double hung window. But yeah, it sounded fine to me, and it sounded like it was a reasonable price given what it was.
Okay, so if this board approves this window, though, we're approving it on the exact replication of the windows that's there in wood. So if he decides he's got to change the design or something about the window, that's not gonna be something that you could go forward with until you come back to us again. So if we approve that window, it's going to be the exact replica of what's there in wood. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. Yep.
May I ask a couple of questions in that regard then, Lisa, since you're bringing up the exact replication? Elizabeth, do you mind if I call you Elizabeth?
Oh, that's what I usually go by. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to be too informal here. The windows you have right now are single pane windows, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have storm windows on them?
Right.
Okay. And there are muntins, the little wooden dividers that separate the panes of glass within the sash, is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
Just so that you and the board know and understand, if he is replacing the single pane glazing with double pane glass, because there are 2 panes of glass, the muntins, those little divider bars, need to be more substantial in order to support the added thickness and the added weight of the glass, so that the muntins will appear larger. And sometimes it's as much as 3/4 of an inch or so larger than a single pane muntin. And I don't have a particular objection in this instance, but I just want you, Elizabeth, and the board to understand that if she is having thermally efficient double pane glazing put in these windows, the muntins will be larger. Now, that's assuming that he's going to have true divided light muntins. Maybe that's not the case, and that would be an important thing, I believe, for the board to know and understand, whether or not these are true divided light windows, or if there are dividers, are they going to be placed between the panes of glass? Will they be on the outside and the inside with the divider in the middle? There are a lot of details regarding this replacement window, and I don't want to hold you up, but I just want the board to be aware and understand what the issues are.
And you know what, Jenny, you brought up a very good point. So we don't really have the exact dimensions. We don't have the look of the window. We don't have these doing single pane, double pane. So we don't really have information about what window he's building and what window he's putting in there, technically. Correct? We don't have that in our application. And even Elizabeth doesn't really know exactly what he's building or what he's doing. So I agree. I don't want to hold you up either, but I don't think this application is complete if we don't have what this gentleman is actually rebuilding. If he was going in and repairing, that's different. But if he's going to rebuild from scratch, we have no idea what he's building.
I think you said
to that point, that's a good point. And here's my suggestion, that we hold up a decision on this until the applicant and we get a letter from this person, Jim, detailing exactly what he wants to do. Based upon that letter, we can have a virtual meeting in the next week or so before the next January meeting to approve it if it is what we think it needs to be.
Well, I think, Bill, I think that's a good idea, but I also think not only do we need a letter to verify his rationale for why he's not repairing, but we need an actual schematic. I mean, we need a drawing, we need the exact materials, we need a lot. We need basically what the application needs to be complete. So
that would all be part of his letter. Yeah.
I guess Elizabeth.
Has anyone used? I received the name from someone on the board. So is anyone familiar with his work?
Yes, we are. We have used him. We have used him in the village, and he does excellent work.
What is his last name, Bill? Do you know? Bill, do you know?
It's Leibel. Jim Leibel or Liebel? L-I-E.
James.
Yeah.
Jim.
Jim Leibel.
Right.
I know Jim Leibel. He does excellent work.
Okay.
And I don't think that we're worried about, I don't think that we deny the fact that we gave you somebody who's going to do excellent work. What my concern is that we need to know exactly the work he's doing. We can't approve.
I agree, Lisa.
Yeah, we can't approve something until we know what he's building. He's building this from scratch. So I guess my question, Elizabeth, are you rushed to get this done? Could you wait until our next meeting when you've got all the application complete? Or are you in a hurry that we need to discuss whether we could do a virtual meeting on this application alone?
We'd like to try to get it done this winter, and I don't know what his schedule's like. I can try to get that letter too soon, and then if you're able to do a meeting before the next official meeting, that would be helpful. But I can have him write a letter with the specifications and the reason for replacing versus repairing.
Okay, all right. So why don't you do that? And Steve could even help you get the information we need from him. But we need him a letter to explain why he wants to replace instead of repair, and then when the letter needs to have an additional piece to it that explains exactly what he's going to build. So it's two pieces of the letter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Excuse me, Elizabeth, this is Jenny Searle again.
Yeah, hi.
It's my expectation that Jim may have some sort of computer program that will allow him to draw a sketch of the windows. So,
okay.
I don't think it's necessarily unrealistic to anticipate seeing a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
But I obviously can't speak to him, speak about what his capabilities are in that regard specifically.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to make the decision then to table this application, and Elizabeth will try to get that information to us, and we'll see if we need to have a virtual meeting or if we can wait until the second Monday of January, which will come quick because it's the holiday season. So thank you, Elizabeth, and let us know if you need any help.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to James Brook at 22 Boughton Avenue. Is James there?
I am. Thank you, guys, and thank you for corralling me while I was at a party. I appreciate it.
Okay, so James, can you give us some information on what you're looking to do in your home? Basement windows, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, we moved here in July, so we're new to the village. I've had the pleasure of attending a couple of these meetings already, kind of in the background, just to get a feel for how you guys operate, what you're looking for. So I do hope that my application provided you folks what you needed. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. My wife and I moved in, like I said, in July. One of the very few things that we felt was pretty necessary upon moving in was to repair a trio of windows on the sort of basement / ground floor of our house. That was something that our inspector had called out in pretty bold letters. One of our main concerns in getting this repaired before winter is that upon first snow, we all know it snows quite a bit up here in Rochester, That snow is going to exceed the height of the window, and upon melting, it's going to melt into the basement. In one of the pictures I provided, you can clearly see there are substantial, that's a, subjective word, but there are substantial holes in the window frame that allow, air and light and moisture to pass through. So we're going to have to find a solution to prevent that from happening. It's my belief that glass block would be a good option, but we're not married to that. We're simply looking for a solution to get this fixed before essentially the frame of the house becomes an issue.
This is Jenny Searle. Mr. Brooks, may I call you James?
You certainly can, yeah.
Okay, since I asked Elizabeth. When I drove by, these are the windows that are on the Maple Street side, is that correct?
They are on the Jackson Park side.
Oh, Jackson Park, sorry, Jackson Park.
Yep.
Excuse me. What I noticed immediately driving by is that the window on the far east, the one closest to the canal, the sill of that window is almost in the dirt.
Yes.
And the middle window, excuse me, has more airspace between the wood of the windowsill and the grade, but it still is pretty close. And the window that is the farthest west has, is it a shrub? It looks like an evergreen shrub growing close to it or near it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. My suspicion is that snow is likely a problem, but I think just as a new homeowner, again, similar to the homeowners at 44 Lincoln Avenue, if you're not familiar with old buildings, having having the basement windows so close to grade is always going to be a problem. And even if you have glass block windows, if the mortar is not well taken care of, and that would be a maintenance issue for you over time, you're going to continue to have water damage. Is the basement wet now?
It is not.
Okay. Well, I have two comments. First of all, it's my opinion that our guidelines, both the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and the Village of Pittsburgh guidelines, require repair instead of replacing. And I recognize that your windows may very well be totally toast. We've replaced windowsills and window sash at my own house this summer. I know how bad it can be. But if they cannot be repaired, then replacement in kind is the appropriate means of replacement. But in addition to that, it would be my suggestion that you add window wells. You know what I mean by window well around at the windows?
I do, yes.
Okay. You can buy galvanized metal window wells at Home Depot. You dig them into the dirt, and that allows the wood of the window to be separated from the damp earth. So regardless of what you do, I would suggest that you add window wells at those windows, and that you check the grade around the rest of your house to be sure that water is not running towards your house. Stormwater is not running towards your house, but rather away. So the grade around your house should be sloped away from the house.
Okay. So I guess I would follow up and ask, obviously I can talk to the person that I'm currently speaking to here and say, we should look into installing these window wells. I would assume that's something I have to put in front of you folks again in a couple weeks. Is that correct?
Window wells can be set low enough so that they're not really visible. You might see they're galvanized metal. They're not quite half circles, and they tend to have a rim that stands just slightly above the grade.
Sure.
But it's not my call to say whether or not you would need to appear before the board for window wells. If you were going to do concrete, maybe.
So
Go ahead,
Thank you.
Lisa, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jenny. That was very helpful, even to me. So,
Steve, this is Jeff. Could Steve, can we put you on the spot and see if you think that's a visible architectural feature, the window wells?
No, I mean, the only thing you're going to see is maybe 1.5 inches of a rim, and it's really not visible from the public way. The one thing I do want to note, though, and I don't know if Linda sent it around today, is there is previous history in regard to glass block and install on some buildings.
Steve, this is Lisa Cove. Okay, so right now we don't even have to go there because it sounds like the applicant is possibly willing to have those windows repaired in kind. So that's what I want to ask the applicant right now. Are you willing to have somebody come by and take a look at those windows and see if they can be rebuilt and repaired and have the grate moved and have the window wells put in and save the original windows and the structure and the look of the original house, which is the way we always lean towards? Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Yes, I think you folks made a great point that regardless of whether or not glass block is installed, some sort of structure like a window well would be relatively useful in preventing, water from reaching the foundation. So, whether or not we are able to do a repair, I think that's the window wells certainly make repair more feasible, in my opinion.
Okay, so you're willing to look into having the wood windows repaired, seeing if they could be repaired.
Yeah, I would just appreciate, whatever references you can provide.
Okay, great.
I'd like to make a comment on that, just to be careful, because you are dealing with a stone foundation, and typically installing a window well, you create a drain that goes into a trough or into a block that goes into a French drain in a basement or into a crock. So somebody needs to really look at that, Mr. Brooks, to make sure that putting a window well isn't just going to drop the water lower into a stone foundation and create a different problem than what you have today.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, certainly a concern. What's your question?
Jim, this is Jenny Searle again. I can provide a detailed sketch of a window well for you. Typically, a window well is, the bottom of the window well is 16 inches below the lowest piece of wood on the window. The first 8 inches is air. The second 8 inches is gravel or some drainage stone to avoid the condition that Steve just pointed out to you, which is something that can happen and definitely a concern. You need to be sure that the window well has drainage at the bottom. Sometimes it's done with a French drain or piping if you have an underground stormwater disposal system around your house already. But otherwise, just adding 8 inches of gravel at the bottom of the window well with 8 inches of airspace between the gravel and the wood.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds
All
like,
right, well,
yes, applicant?
Yeah, just, slightly concerned that by trying to address one problem, I may create another, but I'm certainly willing to look into this.
Okay, great. So then we will table this application and give you some time to look into the whole window well situation, as well as having the windows repaired in kind.
All right, thank you very much.
All right,
Good.
thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Jim.
Thank you.
All right, so we have one more. This is not a formal application. This is actually sent to us from the Planning and Zoning Board to have a discussion about a application that was presented to them in regards to an addition. It looks like there's some variant stuff, but they want us to answer some questions. I actually have the question somewhere here. In regards to historic preservation. So let me just, I don't know if everybody's gotten the information from Linda about the actual formal proposal or the formal proposal from the zoning, but they've asked us for some specifics. Where is it now? Okay, so here are their thoughts or things that they want us to kind of look into. They want us to take a look at the proposed building bulk, mass, and scale, the compatibility with the community and neighborhood character, the view shed impacts on neighboring properties, and provide any appropriate suggestions to mitigate impacts. So did everybody have a chance to look at the addition that is being proposed by Jonathan Murray?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And I have a couple of points to make, a couple of questions here.
Okay.
We're not being asked, nor should we be asked, to make a judgment on mass and scale because we don't have the kind of detail we need for that. It seems to me that the only thing we can have a point of view on here is the building footprint that they've given to us, abusing the neighborhood character for the size of building footprint on the size of a lot. Jeff, am I correct or wrong about that? Jeff?
I thought I saw elevations in the package.
There are elevation drawings. They don't show the existing house in its entirety.
Yeah, right. We don't have enough information.
Yeah, no, Bill, we have all the elevations. We have the blueprint. We have the imprint. We have a lot of information. So I think that we have enough information to look at mass and scale. I mean, we can see the size. We can see the square footage. I mean, we've got a lot of information here that we can talk about mass and scale. So I don't know if you got that information, Bill. Maybe you didn't get this.
Well, I see some information, but this is not before the board to review mass and scale. My understanding is it's what they're calling for here, from what I can read, is that the rule of thumb in the village is that in historic properties, you should not exceed 25% of your square footage of your property with a footprint. They already have 30%, and what this proposal is calling for is 37%. Isn't that what we're supposed to be evaluating right now?
That's one of the things we were supposed to be evaluating.
But hold on a minute. My understanding, and Jeff, you can clarify this, that actual square footage and the variance that the applicant is asking planning and zoning to grant them, that's not our jurisdiction. But what planning and zoning want help with is aesthetically and in character with the neighborhood. If they build this addition, is it going to look too massive for the space? Is it going to look too massive for the community or the neighborhood? Is the structure going to look like a quote sore thumb because of the size of it? That I think in general, they're not asking us to be specific, but they're going to say like that's what a view shed is. I had to look it up. You know, is it generally going to look out of place in the neighborhood? That's really what they're asking us to answer.
I would say to the board that this is really like an information only application, because eventually this is going to come back to the board for approval. If you know, right, depending on what the ZBA does with it, if the ZBA gives their approvals, this board is going to have to review it. And I would look at this as an information only to this applicant, and then in that context, you could answer the ZBA's questions.
But Jeff, what are we answering here? Are we answering how much surface area it takes up on the property? Or are we supposed to look at the total mass and scale of this addition and its consistency with the village?
The total mass and scale of the addition, because it's the zoning board that decides how large their variance can be. Could I?
Yes.
We've been asked to comment on the setting. And in preservation, setting has a specific definition. According to the National Park Service, which regulates all things preservation. I have that information here if anyone would like to hear it.
Yep, I've heard it.
Okay. Setting is the physical environment of a historic property, whereas location refers to the specific place where a property was built or an event occurred. Setting refers to the character of the place in which the property played its historic role. So we're looking at the smaller homes in that area, in that neighborhood of the village. It involves how, not just where the property is situated and its relationship to surrounding features and open space. Setting often reflects the basic physical conditions under which a property was built and the functions it was intended to serve. In addition, the way in which a property is positioned in its environment can reflect the designer's concept of nature and aesthetic preferences. The physical features that constitute the setting of a historic property can be either natural or man-made, including such elements as topographic features, gorge, crest of a hill, etc., vegetation, simple man-made features, paths or fences, and this is the one that I feel is important for this lot, relationships between buildings and other features or open space. These features and their relationships should be examined not only within the exact boundaries of the property, but also between the property and its surroundings. That's the end of the paragraph on setting. From how to evaluate the integrity of a property from the National Park Service bulletin regarding how to apply the National Register criteria for evaluation.
Thank you, Jim.
I would just point out that the HPB code sort of echoes that you need to consider the neighborhood in which this is being proposed.
Exactly. The other can I comment about massing at this point? Is that all right with everybody? Our guidelines, the Village of Pittsford design guidelines on page 34 regarding additions, the most important feature of an addition is additive massing. The mass of the addition should be secondary to the main mass of the building. It's my opinion that regarding massing, this addition is too large. It might be, and what concerns me the most is that it's 2 stories, and the second story as planned, which we don't deal with the interior, but it appears that the reason for the second story is for a balcony or an overlook from the second floor down into the proposed family room space. And that seems, given the parameters of the site and the size and massing of the existing house, that having 2 stories there does not make the addition subordinate enough to the existing house. I'm also very concerned about the setting. I think it's the footprint, in my opinion, is also too large because it will take up almost all of that backyard. And in a village setting, and I lived in probably the second smallest house in the village when I lived in the village. Backyards are important. I don't know if you have children, Mr. Murray, but in my neighborhood on Lincoln Avenue, all the backyards backed up on the block. All the kids ran around there. It was like a park for them. So that is the setting in the neighborhood of Lincoln Avenue, Sutherland Street, Monroe Avenue, and Washington Avenue there. Washington, is it Avenue or street there? Anyway, I think that the addition is too large on the site and its massing is too large. The massing could be both the footprint and the height. I think the addition would improve if both the size of the footprint and the height of the addition were reduced.
What about the visibility of the addition that you're putting on? I'm having a problem, just for me, understanding exactly what with that new addition, where it would be visible from. What is that?
What do you mean, Mark? What do you mean?
Well, I just don't understand if you've got this addition that's going on there, but I'm losing the bearing as to where it is relative to South Street. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. The house is actually located at the corner of South Street and Maple Street.
Yeah.
So the addition wouldn't be particularly visible from South Street, but it would be visible from Maple Street.
I got you. That's what I want to know. Thanks.
I believe the addition would be quite visible from South Street. My opinion is the addition would be quite visible from South Street.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I have a question for you. Do you know was there an addition already put on that house? The back side?
Yes, the original portion of the house, if you're looking at the plan, is the portion of the house closest to South Street, and then correct. I believe it was in the 1970s they added that rear rectangle on.
Right. Okay. So I did go and visit the site, which I did ask everybody to do because it's really important to actually see, because our charge is to really take a look at the space and how this is going to fit in that space and in the neighborhood. And when I walked there, to me, the addition that's already there is quite substantial. And you basically, Jonathan, have a postage stamp of a property. And to me, if you put that addition on, you've got no grass. There's going to be very little landscaping or any green space around that property. It's going to be just this massive structure that's going to sit on the corner. And I think it's going to just overshadow the whole neighborhood. It's just going to be a big, massive structure. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. The quaintness of the intention of that neighborhood is the quaint kind of canal side neighborhood. And I actually have formally pulled out specifics from a lot of our documents to justify some of these things. But the intention of that neighborhood was to be a quiet, peaceful canal town neighborhood with sweet little structured houses. And I just think that addition takes away all of that. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, Bill McBride, I agree with that. I think it is a major addition to a house. It's clearly dominating the property. It is inconsistent with the neighborhood and inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. So I don't even have to see the property to see how it changes the character of what they have laid out in terms of what I see, changes the character of the property and the neighborhood. So that's my opinion.
All through the village in the residential areas, there are homes and yards and homes and yards and homes and yards. And that large scale addition eliminates the view of the yard as you drive along South Street.
Yeah.
Ken, do you have anything to say? Ken Morrow?
Yeah, I used to live very close to there and walk around that block all the time. So I drove by yesterday, and I just think that if you added an addition, a 670-foot, I think, addition onto the back, it would be too large for the property.
I agree with that. Yep.
So I don't know what the inside of the house looks like, Jonathan, but if I were to think of ways to mitigate impact, I would probably take that addition that was built in the 70s, which doesn't look that great anyways, and play around with that by adding, I don't know what the inside of that looks like, but adding some mass to that addition that's already there, whether you go up, I don't really know exactly, but I don't know about putting another structure onto the structure that's already there. That's just not something that I find is appropriate for the house.
Or a structure that size, yes, right.
This is Jenny again. The guidelines for rehabilitation of historic buildings, also a National Park Service publication, and we are governed by the National Park Service. In their discussion on additions, not recommended is building an addition when the new use for the addition could be met by altering existing interior space. So I think there's a lot of support for an opinion that this is inappropriate for the neighborhood. Lisa,
sounds like we're all agreed, right?
Lisa, what is the deliverable to the ZBA?
When?
No, what? What are they expecting to get from the HPB?
They're asking us, they gave us those guidelines.
I know. Are they expecting a letter?
Yes, they are. Well, I have developed a formal proposal, which was kind of like a draft that I sent to Jeff. I will be sending it out to all of you so that you can take a look at it. And Ginny, I'm really going to need some input that you've already given us in regards to some of the documents that are already supporting this. If you look at that document, you'll see exactly what I think they're expecting from us.
And when do they meet, please? Wednesday night?
Yeah, they had a deadline. I have it written down in the letter, and I don't have it with me. You're going to be getting that document tonight.
Okay. I'll be available tomorrow during the day if you want to talk about it by phone.
Okay.
Yes, they meet Wednesday night and wanted to try and get an opinion prior to their meeting.
Okay.
So their meeting's this Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
This Wednesday, yeah, okay.
So I will get that document out. I'll have you guys all look at it and see if there's any additions or comments or suggestions that we can offer to the Planning and Zoning Board, and then we'll present that to them Wednesday morning.
We have the applicant and his architect here. I'm wondering if there's something that they would like to add to the conversation.
I guess I would simply state that, I mean, I've lived in this house for 20 years. I am extremely interested in preserving the character of the neighborhood and the street. Those things are important to me. I do have 2 kids in this house. They do play with the neighbors and they do run between all of the neighbors' homes. So I mean, to imply in any way that I'm not interested in preserving the character of this neighborhood is insulting. So thank you for your time, but I guess that's it.
Jonathan, we didn't mean to be insulting. We were just basically talking about the actual structure that's being proposed. So we're not saying that.
I understand that. And you know what? I mean, I have, as I said, I've got a lot of experience living here. I also have a master's degree in city planning and an undergraduate degree in architecture. So these aren't foreign concepts to me. I completely disagree, Mrs. Searle. You cannot see the backyard from South Street.
I was there this afternoon and I could see your backyard from South Street.
Okay. So I guess we're done. There's no point in continuing this. I apologize. I mean, it's a little frustrating to have gone through this process over a couple of months now, and then just, I'm sorry, my property's a blight on the community. This is.
I don't think anyone feels that, nor did anyone say that, and I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Jonathan, I think that, you know, I think that there is room to do something. I just don't think that this particular addition is the something that is going to be appropriate for the neighborhood. That's all we're saying. We're not saying anything about, you know, the quality of your addition. We're just saying that the size, the scale, the feel is just not appropriate for the architecture structure of the house.
Well, as one of your members said, he doesn't even need to drive by the house. He doesn't even need to see it to make his decision. So that tells me the approach.
Well, he was able to actually, you know, to tell you the truth, Jonathan, I went to the house first before I even saw.
I'm not talking about what you said. I'm talking about what
I'm just telling you that, believe me.
You know what? I'm the guy who said that. Bill McBride. I've driven by your house. I've been by your house.
Okay, so
I know what it looks like.
Well, that's
and you put a major addition on the back of the house that totally takes up 37% of the square footage of your property. That's inconsistent with the neighborhood. Am I wrong?
Wasting our time. You're not. This isn't going anywhere. So we're done. I'm sorry we wasted your time.
Just a suggestion, you know, open to all of you folks. I think it might be a good idea to actually try to convene all of us by your house and take a look at it. And you say, here's exactly where that will go, because it will give us all a perspective and be able to see it on site, how that's going, and exchange ideas about it. Personally, I think it should be an on-site visit. That's just my idea.
You guys have made it very clear that this isn't going anywhere. I wish we could have had the opportunity to finish the design and bring it to you and let you evaluate whether or not it looks acceptable or engages Maple Street facade of the house better than the ugly addition that's on right now. I think we could have done that. I really think it could have been a nice.
Yeah, he's looking at me. I'm next door here. I haven't been here the whole meeting, so I don't know what is happening, but it sounds like it's not going to go through. But yeah, one of the reasons that we were surprised, and you know, what I've been mostly surprised about is that when we first brought this up to Steve, it didn't seem like this would be a problem at all. Like there wouldn't be any issues. And then when we went to the next meeting with zoning again, they were like, nope, yep, this is fine, but you just need to go through these hoops. And it's like, you know, we haven't invested in a full drawing because we wanted to make sure that that footprint was going to be okay. But I feel like the investment we've already made, you guys haven't even given us a chance yet to show you what our dream was when we were looking. The one thing, Jenny, that I did hear was something where you're talking about the neighborhood and with the kids in the backyards. If you actually come to our property and you look at our backyard, there's a garage, there's a driveway. Yes, the children do play, but they have to go out to the sidewalk already to be able to go play with the other kids in the neighborhood. And our neighborhood is awesome. I mean, the kids play outside all the time, and I don't think that taking away the spot where this building is going to be is going to impact how much fun the kids have in this neighborhood. So, you know, there's just, you know, I'm not sure what else I can say. We're obviously disappointed, but.
Hang on, just one sec on that one. I think there's such a gap in point of views for what you want to do and what some of the thought processes are here, that it really deserves to have an on-site visit so that you can sit there and say, here's what it is. This is exactly how this will work. This is generally speaking what our architecture will look like. I think,
Mark, hold on a minute.
Yeah,
Mark,
go
hold
ahead.
on. I think you're a little ahead of yourself. So our charge
Yeah.
tonight is not a formal application. It hasn't even we haven't even gotten it because it's got to go through zoning and planning. And obviously zoning and planning have an issue with the size, and they're just we are not gonna either we're not the ones who are going to either say no zoning, you can't do it, or yes zoning, you can do it. We're going to give them our thoughts about this, and then they, as a board, are going to make the final decision.
To interrupt you, I apologize, but what we were told is whatever your decision is what's going to be happen with this property. That's it.
And who told you that?
Unfortunate. By any means, they were looking to you to make this decision for them.
That is not, we are not making a decision for a zoning and planning decision. What we are doing is we are giving them, hold on one second. We are giving them our historic preservation insight on this addition. That is all. We're not, we have no jurisdiction to say yes or no, this goes through planning and zoning. That's not our board. They're asking us for our opinion, and then
They're making it abundantly clear that whatever, even if they say, yeah, go ahead, you're going to say no. There's nothing we can do that is going to get this through. So, I mean,
but wait a minute, there's a lot of space there. So you're saying that what you've proposed right now is not going to go through, but there is a lot of room. You guys have a lot of room to change this, to maybe use the addition that's already there, to spruce that section up a little bit more and make that a little bit more usable. So it's not black and white. We're not saying you can't do anything. We're just saying what you're proposing is not appropriate for that space. It's not appropriate for the neighborhood. It's too large and it overpowers the main house. So that's all we're saying. You can certainly come back with another idea or another option.
You know, I wouldn't mind asking, I mean, David, I hate to put you on the spot. Our architect has been on the phone. You know,
I mean, this is all shot to hell now, so.
I'm sorry, I don't think it is. And again, everybody may disagree with me, but in my opinion, when you get to a situation like this, that the points of view are so extremely different. You have one point of view, others have different points of view, that's fine. Get on site and take a look at it and let you explain it. And that's not going to harm anyone. It's going to move us up the ladder of understanding what it is that you want to do. That's my personal opinion.
Jeff, can I ask you, Jeff's our lawyer. Jeff, is that something that we can do at this point? Because we don't actually have that in our hand. So is that something that we
you could always, I mean, you could do a site visit if you felt like it was going to assist you in answering the questions that the Zoning Board of Appeals has put to you.
Yeah.
So let me ask the board.
This is David Burrows.
I know what Mark's thoughts are. Ginny, do you feel that we need a site visit to make a decision?
I would be happy to meet at the site. I think Mr. Burrows was trying to speak. Is that right, David?
Right. Yeah, Jonathan asked me to say something, and I guess just kind of explain how we ended up where we are. The plan that Jonathan and Carolyn presented me was what we continued on with some input from the zoning board. And we expected that we'd have to get to this stage before we got basically the Historic Preservation Board's direction. We didn't really have any input from the board. I guess if there had been a mechanism for that, we probably wouldn't have gone as far as we did. But we continued on knowing that it would conform with zoning, or that we could probably get a zoning variance. Probably not considering that it could be overturned, I guess, by the Historic Preservation Board. So, you know, I respect all of your opinions. I think that they all do make sense. My only regret is, in hindsight, I wish we could have gotten guidance before we went this far with it. And it does seem like, yes, it's as somebody said, it's not black or white. There could be another solution that we could present. It will be scaled back, and it will add to the house, but not to the volume and size that had been presented. But I don't think that's what Jonathan and Carolyn want. So we'll I'll be happy to talk to Jonathan and Carolyn after this meeting and see what the direction will go from here.
If you decide that it would be to your advantage for the HPB to meet on site and have a meeting with you on site, it's my belief that board members are willing to do that.
Sure.
Okay, so then you could just give the village office a call after you guys talk, the architect and Jonathan and Carolyn. And then if you want us to come to the site, we can figure out a time to do that, and we can go from there. Is that okay? Jonathan? I know you're very disappointed. I understand.
Sure. Yeah.
I know. I understand. But like I said, it's not all or nothing. It could be something. So let's see what your architect and you guys talk about, and then let us know if you would like us to come to your site. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
And in the future, I just, when we go to the village and we ask questions, I think a little bit more clear guidance would be helpful.
So do you mean from the zoning board, or what exactly board are you talking?
Whatever comment, because I know that we've been several times talking to various people, and it just seems like the advice we've been given isn't as clear as it could be. It was a little inconsistent.
And I'd have to support that too. And I know towns can't really have each board talk to each other and tell each other what their views are. In an ideal situation, that would have been the case, that the building inspector could have given some tips to Jonathan and Carolyn saying that what you're proposing may not pass. Maybe you'd better talk to somebody from this historic preservation board to see if you should go any further. So in hindsight, if that conversation had taken place, we'd be drawing something else. You wouldn't see the version that we have now.
Yes, thank you so much for that input. I mean, you're right. You guys kind of got lost in the shuffle, and that usually, it doesn't happen very often, but I'm sorry that happened to you guys, because we usually do kind of catch these things at a stage where you could get more input from the different boards before you go and draw these huge plans and kind of make that commitment. So I'm sorry about that, and we appreciate you giving us that information. And we do try to do what we can to serve the residents, because we all understand that it's a lot of time, energy, and heartache when things don't turn out the way you're expecting them, and you kind of went all through this process not knowing. So we will try to do better. And like I said, we hope we can do something to help you.
I think the board exists to protect the village, and I think that's, an honorable charge. So I was on the Brighton Architecture Review Board for 12 years, kind of in the same situation a lot of you are in. So I've been on both sides. And, there's a lot of disconnect between the zoning board and the Architecture Review Board, and it happens in every town, but it'd be nice to get some of those connections fixed.
Yeah, so let me just explain something a little to you. We intentionally want that disconnect to be there, because each board has a very specific charge. Yep. So we don't like to muddy the waters, because what they do is very different than what we do. So so we keep that separate for that reason. They approve and they do completely different work than what we do, even though it's the same application. But what we get doesn't always have to come from the zoning board. So you guys are going through a special process that has to go through the two boards, which is not always the case. Many of our applications don't ever have to go to zoning. So it's the variance piece that you guys kind of have that middle governance board that you've had to go through. So we intentionally keep us separate, because we are very separate entities.
Steve?
Yeah, I want to speak on something. Part of this is I guess you would call it an error on my part, because I didn't realize that the driveway would be considered impervious surface as a stone driveway. So when this application came through and it went in front of the zoning board, the requirement to get the variances, I did not realize until a member of the zoning board caught the fact of the amount of impervious surface on this property created the need for the variance. That got slipped by me, and that is why actually it goes to different boards or different entities, because some people will catch something that somebody else didn't. I apologize for that, but in this application, like I said, one of the zoning board members caught the fact that the driveway created another 519 square feet on this property, which created the issue that it already was at 31.5% of the lot coverage. I realize you're a small lot compared to the house or compared to most average lots. This would not be a lot that would be allowed today to be built on the way it is. It is a substandard lot. So like I said, it's unfortunate that it got missed by me, but it did get caught by somebody else. And you could have been, even farther down the line here before somebody actually caught that and created a larger problem. Like I said, I'm sorry it got to this point, but I'm grateful that somebody else checks work too and will catch something that I may miss at a time.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, does anybody have any other comments or questions or anything else they need to discuss about this applicant or application?
No, I have nothing more.
Okay. Okay, so I guess that is all for tonight. We do have to thank you, Jonathan, and hopefully we'll hear from you guys again. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you
Good
for
night.
your time.
I know that we have some minutes that we need to approve. Has everybody taken a look at their-
And also the 2021 schedule, meeting schedule.
Yes, so the meeting schedule has been brought forth to all of us, the dates, which are pretty consistent with the second Monday of the month. The time change, again, will be as our January meeting to 5:30. We will be doing Zoom meetings until further notice, which may be quite some time. And then the minutes, has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yep. One set, yep.
Yes. Yep.
The minutes are from
11/9.
Okay, so if everybody is ready, I make a motion to approve the minutes from 11/9/20. Do I get a second?
Second. A second, Bill?
Second with Mark. All in favor, Ginny?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Bill McBride?
Yes.
Myself, Cove, yes. The minutes are approved.
I have two other comments. Mr. Burrows is no longer on the phone. I know David Burrows. He used to work in the Bureau office before I was there. He's well versed in preservation. And in fact, he's a name that the office, when a homeowner wanted us to do work and we could not, we would give his name. I'm disappointed that he did not do a better job with his clients, because a lot of the frustration, I believe, could have been avoided if he had been a little more on the ball. The other comment I have is that I don't know if anybody else has driven by the solar installation on Boughton Avenue.
No.
You should actually, I took some photographs. I'll send a couple. There's absolutely no, there's no shielding of that view now. All the trees don't have any leaves, and all the weeds that were growing up in between the trees are all dead. And that installation needs to be screened. And we talked about it at the meeting, and there was discussion about, I had offered to meet with the owner and make some suggestions, and I guess it was the mayor wanted to use a landscaping company that the village has a relationship with. Is that correct? I don't know exactly what it was. In any case, that is hugely visible. It's very large in the backyard. And while I totally and completely and enthusiastically support the use of photovoltaics, this property needs screening so that that's not visible. It's not appropriate at all for it not to be screened. So I would urge people to go by. I'll send photographs tomorrow.
She has planted arborvitaes. If you go by and you look, Jenny, she has planted some arborvitaes along that back line.
Okay.
But they're not very tall right now. They're small arborvitaes because she went to an arborist, somebody that was recommended by Bob, and they were talking about $10,000 to provide screening for that, in order to put trees big enough that would properly screen at this point or today. And at that point, she was like, I'm not going to spend another $10,000. The whole reason for doing this is to, monetarily for her house and her business.
Yep.
So she went and they planted their own arborvitaes. If
Okay, I pulled over on the opposite side of the road, and there were cars coming by, and I did not get out and walk over there to look. And I would not expect that the screening would be sufficient necessarily now. I'm concerned that she planted arborvitae. Arborvitae get high. She's in danger of casting shade on her photovoltaics. I would have suggested something that grows much lower. I mean, there are lots of evergreen shrubs that have a 6 to 8 feet top height, and arborvitaes are not one of them. I mean, they can be trimmed as a hedge. I know my in-laws did that for many years.
So I just have a comment. My understanding is that we have never used any kind of landscaping as a way to assure a screening of anything, because we know, right? So when we approved that solar monster, I knew that was going to be wide open, because we can't legitimately say that it has to be screened by foliage, because that's just not, like I said, it's kind of like if somebody had a trampoline in their yard, a big massive trampoline. We can't ask them to, put trees all over to block it, because that's not really a sufficient blockage. So it's the same concept. I always knew that was going to be sitting there in the middle of that space.
Well, it's my recollection that some type of screening may have been part of the approval.
Well, we asked them to do it as a favor or as a recommendation, but I don't think we based our approval on the fact that we were going to get a really good screen of some sort. Does anybody else remember that?
I thought that the approval was conditioned on screening. And Lisa, I think the board can use vegetation screening. I mean, we do that. We are charged with doing screening for like generators and that sort of thing, and we very often have used evergreens to screen. So I think we can use that kind of screening, and I thought that the approval was conditioned on screening.
That was my recollection as well, Jeff.
Yeah, it was. If you go back and look, it was based on the recommendation to go to an arborist or somebody for vegetative screening.
That just
I
seems
agree with Lisa.
so benign.
I agree with Lisa that vegetation, whether it's trees or shrubs or whatever, is not a permanent, may not be a permanent screen, because you get, you get bugs, you get ash borer, you get, any number of things. It blows over in the wind.
Exactly. That's why I never thought we were able to use that as appropriate screening.
I'm sorry, I don't recall right at the moment, and I have not pulled up my minutes, but I think it's worth pursuing, because with a solar installation in such a prominent location now, we'll probably see more. And I did passive solar architecture for 15 years. I'm all for it. On the other hand, I'm not all for it if it's a visual detriment to an historic property.
Okay, and then did you, Ginny, we could pull that up and take a look at that, and if people want to buy the property and take a look. What was the other concern you had? You said you had two?
No, there was that, well, I wanted to state that I felt that the Brooks may have been agitated unnecessarily because I didn't feel their architect had done them, had provided the kind of service he should have. So Steve, I don't think you should feel like you should accept blame for this in any way. I think that their architect is more to blame than anyone.
Okay, and then I guess this is a comment I want to make to Steve. Steve, moving forward, when an applicant comes to you with a simple, I want to replace my windows with vinyl, do you basically say, you know, that's probably not going to work? I mean, I'm just wondering, because it just seems like, because I'm like, it seems like an easy, don't bring it to us. If you tell them, the likelihood of that being passed is not going to fly. Can you, you know, if you kind of, so I'm just, do you know what I mean?
Lisa, when people, first off, I'm going to make a comment about Green Hill. It's a post-war neighborhood. We've already approved non-wood windows in houses there. So I feel what was done in Green Hill, in my opinion, is not in the best interest of that person, but that's my opinion. But I will tell you,
hold on.
Let me finish.
Okay, this is about this. Okay.
When people come in and ask me to replace wood windows with vinyl, I tell them they have a better chance of winning the lottery than they do of getting the board to approve a vinyl window in a wood window structure.
Perfect. That's exactly it. Great. Okay, let me just go back to, I think the best rule of thumb for you, Steve, especially for you, is we can't go by the fact that if something was done before, it can be done again. Because remember, the historic preservation
I'm going by the fact of what our historical preservation law is within the village for the post-war neighborhood.
But we do not approve or disapprove specific projects based on what we've done in the past. We just don't, that's not the way we are governing. We do not govern like that, and we shouldn't be.
It's got nothing to do with what's done in the past. It's got to do with what is in our code, Lisa. The post-war neighborhood in our code allows for a replacement as long as the visual look is compatible with what was there. That's in our code. So those people should have the option of replacing with something that looks exactly like what was there. That's in our code.
Okay, so you know what? I'm not aware of that being in our code. Is anybody else aware of that being in your code? Bill McBride.
It's in the design guidelines, which are not code.
So the design guidelines, wait, do the design guidelines specifically state post-war era homes can be replaced with vinyl windows if they're wood? It says that?
Another material.
Gave us an opinion, and I will look it up for you. I have my design guidelines open right here.
It says another material can be utilized as long as the look is compatible with what was existing previously. It's in our design guidelines just for the post-war neighborhood, which is Green Hill, Heatherhurst, and Courtney Circle.
Well, I'm going to look that up because remember, we're not just about look. We're about historic and architectural integrity. Integrity means materials. So it's not just look, it's the structure and the integrity of the property. So that would mean materials. So I can't believe that we would say, yeah, just go and replace wood with vinyl. I just can't believe that we would say that, but we're going to try to find that.
Lisa, we just went through this a month or two ago. And Maria wrote an opinion that the board used for making a decision. Windows. You want me to read what it says about windows?
Yes, please.
Original windows should be retained unless they are beyond repair, which is why I believe it's imperative that when, regardless of the age of the home, and this is in the post-war section, regardless of the age of the home, an effort has to be made to repair or determine that the windows are not repairable. Wood windows in particular are often relatively easy and inexpensive to repair, and homeowners can save considerable money by keeping their windows in good repair or hiring someone to repair them. Let's see. With that said, the quality of windows from 1945 on is not as high as the quality of windows built of old growth wood used before 1945. Expected lifespan of these windows is not as long as for earlier buildings, and replacement may be needed sooner. If replacement is necessary, the configuration, type, and overall appearance of the windows should match the original. For example, a double hung window should not be replaced by a casement windows. The use of newer materials such as vinyl clad or aluminum clad windows may be an appropriate substitution for wood windows if the appearance is indistinguishable from wood from the public right-of-way or arm's length. Substitute materials should be similar in form, configuration, color, texture, and profile to the windows they replace. Decision of appropriateness will be determined on a case-by-case basis. The original mountain configuration and dimensions should be replicated as closely as possible.
All right. So basically, it gives us the era of the house where vinyl's appropriate, correct?
Just for the post-war, just for the post-war neighborhood.
Okay, well thank you for that, because I did not know that. So thank you.
I would point out that it says vinyl clad. It doesn't say vinyl windows. So if the vinyl window significantly changes the profile over what a vinyl clad window would produce, then that may be a decision point for the board.
Correct.
Okay.
It should be like a vinyl clad or aluminum clad window, not a complete vinyl window, because you're never going to get a vinyl window to match the look of a wood window. The profiles aren't the same. They're larger. A vinyl window's body and sash frame are much larger than a typical wood window.
Okay.
Vinyl is not strong enough to support the glass.
All right. Thank you guys very much for that clarification. I appreciate it. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Jenny. Okay, so does anybody have any other comments or questions before we wrap the meeting up tonight?
None at all from me.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for your time and your energy and your expertise. I really appreciate it. And I will
do you want to approve the schedule for next year?
Oh, do we have to approve that? Okay.
I think so. Yep.
Okay, so I am making a motion to approve the schedule that Linda sent out for 2021. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Mark Harrington, do you approve?
Yep.
Jenny?
Yep.
Ken?
Yes.
Bill McBride? Bill McBride?
I think he's gone.
Okay.
Left already.
He was out of there. Okay, so does that mean that we can get that approved without him? We have quorum, right?
I think so, sure.
Yes,
Okay.
we have a quorum.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Please look out for that document that I'm going to send around with some specifics that I found in regards to 29 South Street. Please give me comments, suggestions, or anything you want to include in that formal document that I will send to zoning and planning. And Jenny, I'm working a lot tomorrow, but maybe if you take a look at that, and we'll see if we can connect somehow. Okay?
All right.
I'm
Well, I'll be home and available until 6 o'clock in the evening, but I do a class on Tuesday nights. Lisa, I'll try to put together some findings of facts.
Perfect.
For the applications.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
I just, two things, just kind of a quick information thing. Mr. and Mrs. Coons have come in to me about windows. They have gotten a price for complete wood windows. I turned them on to Mr. Leibel, Steve there, who did the Church Street. So they are going to have him do an evaluation of their windows in the home to see if they are repairable or usable. They were first suggesting a vinyl clad and window, and I told them they had a better chance of winning lottery twice than getting 44 Lincoln to have a vinyl window. So they're looking into complete wood windows. And just kind of a little side note, just so you know, the planning board or zoning board, in talking to Justin, had discussed the application for the Jonathan there. And their comment was, it came down to the fact that saying if they could figure out a way to alleviate any drainage issue, that they would be willing to look at allowing them to go from the 31.5 to the 36% of the lot. So I think your decision will have a lot of weight in what they do now.
Okay. All right,
Steve, did the Combs tell you why they want to replace the windows? I know that house. I know the woman who just moved out of that house. Those windows are in great shape and operate very well.
Actually,
So-
no, I went through the house with him. Half the windows don't open. The glazing's all gone on them. They have no storms. So
I'm telling you, the windows are probably painted shut, or else they don't have sash cord. Glazing compound has to be replaced periodically. And if there aren't storm windows, they will achieve an equal thermal rating on the windows simply by having some storm windows. They can have wooden storm windows made for far less money than replacing those windows. So I'd be delighted to talk with them about that. And I can give them some documents regarding energy efficiency and replacement windows.
right. Well, I've turned them on to Steve, who did Church Street. So I think
They shouldn't replace the windows at all. There's no reason to replace the windows.
no, but he's going to evaluate whether they're repairable or not. So you know, that's the whole purpose of turning him to them or them to him.
Okay.
I'd just like to agree with Jenny. I think that a lot of these window applications for existing, you know, say pre-World War II windows, they're painted shut, the weights are bad, they need to be reglazed, they, you know, and as you point out, the storms, and really they could do that, but I think they get to these window replacement vendors and they talk them into ripping the windows out.
Because the window replacement vendors want to sell them windows.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
I've got to go. Good night, guys.
Thank you guys, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday season. We'll see you in 2021.
Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.